Charlie. Wow. Whoa! That wasn't very nice.
No. No house.
Well, we can't build another one. You destroyed it so fast. Charlie. What up, YouTube? Check Raise Charles here, and I'm back again, as you'll see in a moment. So it's been, I think, 2 or 3 months since I last posted a video. I've been quite busy. In fact, I actually made a video about a month ago, or almost made a video that I was ready to post. My phone ran out of memory, didn't complete the last couple of hands in the video, then kind of got caught up with life, never got around to finishing it. So this video is actually going to be me completing that video, as well as adding on what's happened since then. So in that video, I kind of talk about what has been going on. And then since that video, I actually went to Vegas, brought Charlie with me, and visited my parents. Kind of gave my wife a week off to herself. She's actually working that week, but I wanted to go and visit Brad for his birthday. So I went and surprised him. I might end up making a video out of that trip. Played in their meetup game and had a couple of really fun and interesting hands that I can kind of quickly talk about. So I think I'll end up making a video out of that separately. And then shortly after that, we ended up planning a vacation with my parents and my wife and son back to go to Hawaii. I'd gone there a couple of months ago for a wedding to Honolulu. It was my first time. My wife's never been, my father's never been, and I just really wanted to take my parents out for a vacation. So I've just been really busy, mostly traveling, spending time with family, and that's kind of it. So now my parents, right after Hawaii, they came back to San Francisco. They just left like 2 days ago. So mostly the last 3 months have been, spending time with family. And now that my parents have gone, I'm going to have more time to play poker, and I wanted to get back into vlogging. And this will hopefully be just that. We're going to get into the video that I had previously recorded about a month ago that kind of goes over what had been going up until that point. And then I'm going to have to manually kind of finish up the last 2 hands that didn't end up getting recorded on that video since my phone ran out of space. I hope you enjoy this and look forward to more stuff coming your way from this channel. Alright, thanks guys. Let's get into it. Peace. What up, YouTube? Another edition of poker from my car. It's been a while, I know. I'm sorry. I've been missing. I've been busy. Shortly after the new year, I had a friend's wedding in Hawaii. So that was awesome. Went to Hawaii for a little bit. You can check that out right here.
just want you. Just want you. Just want you. Just want you.
And then after Hawaii, I was playing some poker, started running pretty bad, wasn't very motivated in, taking videos or talking about things. I actually did have one whole hand history session that I had gone over, never got around to editing it. My phone is just backlogged with a bunch of stuff. There's no space on my phone, so I just recently started getting around to deleting old crap. Figure, you know what, forget the old stuff, we're just going to move forward. And then shortly thereafter that, there was Lunar New Year, so I went and spent some time with my wife and her siblings at her parents' place, and so there actually hasn't been too much poker. Unfortunately, the poker that I have been playing hasn't been going too well. There's been some good news, bad news. The good news is the 3-5 game that I've been playing mostly during the days has increased its buy-in from a $500 cap to a $1,000 cap, which I absolutely love, because I used to get stuck for 500 or more, and it really sucks when someone stacks you and you can't cover them. Now, when some of the worst players, you'll still find that the worst players are buying in shorter, but now when they double up for 3, 4, 500, you can at least cover them. And so that's the good news. The bad news is, now that the game's deeper, I've been running like dog poop. One hand, specifically I can talk about that, which was real fun. Playing 3-5, there's like round of straddles. There's been a lot more straddling going on now that the game is playing deeper. So it's 3-5-10. There's limper. I pocket 10s. I make it 45. The guy who's straddling is kind of a well-known guy at the casino. He's kind of retired, playing a lot of poker, having fun. He calls out the straddle, and the limper calls as well. Now the flop comes gin 10-3 deuce rainbow. It goes check to me. I'm not a fan of checking in these spots just because, if I'm not checking with my air balls, I'm not checking my top sets either. So I do want to put in a bet. I end up betting, I think, 60 or 65. Obviously, kind of a down bet, about half pot. Now, the straddler, who's an action player, he likes to kind of overbet, do some goofy things every once in a while. He calls, and the limper calls as well. Turn is a queen, so now I think it's no longer rainbow. I'm not 100% sure anymore. It goes check to me. I just know that the player in the straddle, he's kind of got it out for me. I just have this feeling he's going to play back at me. So I tank, and I bet 190, and he instantly rips it for 1,000 more. Guy in between his folds. I snap. He jumps out of his chair and goes, first out of his chair, wins the pot, and slams down Jack 9, I think suited. So he called me on the flop with no pair, no draw, running straight, and running flush draw probably on the flop. Turns open-ended and rips it on me for 1,000 more. And sure enough, the river is an 8, and he makes a straight, he makes the nuts, and he stacks me, or actually I double him up. I think I had him covered, but pot was like, 2,500 or something like that. So that wasn't fun. There's just been kind of a couple of things going on like that. I did shortly after that, though, decide one day to play a daily tournament. I'd come in, there wasn't a 3-5 game going, and there was a tournament going. I played one of these maybe like 4 years ago. I had a bad experience where basically I caught a dealer doing something in favor of one of the players. Long story short, somebody raises, another guy jams, the raiser folds, and the guy that jams shows an ace and mucks his hand, basically showing that he jammed like ace high. Mucks his hand. The dealer then proceeds to put the kicker on the bottom of the deck and proceeds to box the deck towards the guy that folded to show him basically what the kicker is. it was no doubt in my mind as soon as I saw this what was going on. The dealer was basically showing the other player, who must have been his friend or something, like what the guy's jamming on him with, because it was like a 7 or something. He like jammed like A7 offsuit, some crappy kicker. And the player also, who had the A7, also notices this, flips out. He's like, "What the hell are you doing?" The dealer is just like, like, "I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't do anything." But it was such an awkward and weird thing for him to do, to like box the deck with the kicker on the bottom of the deck. 100%, there was no doubt in my mind he was basically trying to show the other player what this guy jammed on him with. Kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. Since then, that dealer's been fired, and he is no longer working there. But anyway, I just kind of never played any tournaments after that. I'm not a tournament player. I don't really enjoy them, so I don't play them too much. But there wasn't anything going on, so I jumped in the tournament, and sure enough, your boy final tabled it. And we ended up chopping it, I think, 4 ways for about $1,000. Second place was about like 1,050 or 1,100 or something like that. I've got a picture. I don't remember off the top of my head. But I basically chopped for second place money 4-handed, or actually no, 5-handed with 4th in chips. So it seemed like a win to me. Obviously, I've got to come in second to make any more than that, and I've got to win the thing. They didn't have enough players, and they have a $3K guarantee on this tournament, so they had to add like $900 to the prize pool for first. And so almost always what you find is, in this case, that people chop it because it's so top heavy. Anyway, so I was happy to do that. I had a couple of interesting hands from there. We have an action player. This is probably like first half an hour of me being in the tournament. He'd been opening a lot, doing some goofy things. He opens his like 4x early position, folds to me in the big blind. I've got like 14 or 15 big blinds. I have pocket 10s. I just rip it in there because obviously I think he's doing this way wider than jacks plus. He calls pretty quickly and tables jacks, but we flop quads in his face. So got lucky there, obviously, early on in the tournament. After that, it kind of smooth sailing. I was doing a lot of stuff where I was just playing tight. When I was raising, kind of like Broadway hands or ace high hands in position. I was opening them big. I think what you find over the last couple of years where people are, min raising, and it's been super obvious you should be defending pretty wide out of your big blind. And so what I was doing instead was raising large to kind of get people to fold. Everyone was giving me like a lot of respect because I wasn't playing many hands, and they were just over folding, obviously, like way better hands than I was opening. And then when I did get called, I was like under betting flops and getting just like snap folds from people being like, "Oh, would you flop top set?" People are just not good. Then the final interesting hand that I did play is towards the end. We were all playing like, I think 15 to 30 big blind stacks, and people just, in my opinion, were not very good. So I was trying to not gamble it up. For example, like somebody would open, and if somebody would jam on them, they would snap off with their pocket 6s, pocket 3s. They were calling it off and flipping. And so one time somebody opened, I have ace king suited. I decided to just flat because I just, I think that he wasn't folding to my jam, and I didn't want to flip playing like 6-handed, where like for 6th place I get like $100. It was like a $100 tournament, but instead if I get to chop, I'm gonna be chopping for like 1,000. Anyway, the flop comes king high. He c-bets, I call. He check calls a turn bet, and then check calls a river bet, so I got some nice value there. And I played this really interesting hand. So again, another player opens like to 3x early position under the gun. This guy was calling off like all jams. He has me covered. I have ace king suited on the button, and I flat again. Flop comes king 4-4. He checks, I check back. Turns a queen, he checks, and now I bet about a third pot, trying to get some value. He calls, and at this point I kind of put him on a pocket pair or a queen. I don't see like what else he can really be having in this hand to be playing it like that. The river's a queen, and he pretty much instantly jams it on me for like a ton. And I kind of fold really quickly without even thinking about it twice. I thought he had a queen when he called the turn, and so I just didn't think he'd be bluffing here for, I don't know. I mean, obviously maybe I could put more thought into it and thought like, why would he be doing this with a queen? But for my tournament life, I didn't really put much thought into it. I folded, and he shows 10-9 offsuit for turning a gut shot, calling, and then just bluff jamming the river, which I think is pretty goofy because obviously, as played, I'm going to have a queen here a lot when it goes check, check, flop, and then I bet turn. But kudos to him. He did bluff my pants off. Anyway, like I said, we got chopped that one. So fast forward to today. We've got pretty much just 3 interesting hands. So the first of which, I have ace-10 suited. I open to 20. I get 2 callers behind me. One on the button who I had played with maybe a month or two ago. He is from Israel. It seemed kind of aggressive. I had seen him do some goofy stuff, or at least from what I remember, doing some goofy stuff previously. Flop comes 8-8-9. I check, guy behind me checks, and now this kid bets 65 into 55 on the flop. I want to fold, but I just think he's doing this way too wide for me to be folding ace high. I call, player in between folds. Turns a 10, I check, and now he bets 170, which is, again, another big bomb, and I just don't think he has much of a hand here. So I put it in for about his $350 or $400 stack. He snaps it off. He's like, do you have a boat already? I'm like, oh, this isn't so good. Anyway, I turn my hand over immediately. River's a brick, and he kind of shakes his head. He says afterwards he had king jack of spades, so he did bet the flop with king high. He turned a straight and flush draw, and so that's why we got it in. He bricked, so I did hold there. That was nice. Then we play this hand. Actually, all three hands are against the same player. There are a couple of limpers. He's on the button. He makes it 35 on the button. I'm in the small blind with aces. I have him covered, but he's playing about, I think, 1,200. So we're fairly deep. I don't want to make a small raise at the same time. Raising big kind of sucks, but I am out of position. I maybe even wish that I had raised a little bit larger. Since we are rather deep, I actually like going even larger here because we're playing over 200 big blinds, and I don't really want to be giving him odds to set mine or put me in some bad spots. As I will be raising large, I think it's going to be fairly obvious that I have a big hand, and though I do want him to play back at me, I also don't want him to be able to just call in position and put me in a world of hurt post-flop when it comes like 5, 6, 7 or something like that, when I'm just obviously never going to be hitting that sort of board. Anyways, I make it 165. The two limpers fold. He calls. The flop comes jack 7-5 with two clubs. I do not have the ace of clubs. I like to check here because I think sometimes he's going to have queens and kings here when he does call me pre-flop. Similarly, if I bet large, I think I'm going to just kind of lock him out with a lot of his hands. So I decided to check, and he pretty quickly bets 300, which I believe is a fairly large bet on this flop. And it just leads me to believe, A, he's not going to have a set very often when he bets this large, and B, I think he, is going to have queens and kings. As I mentioned, because of our past history, I think he's just never folding over pairs. And since I don't have the ace of clubs, I think also sometimes he's going to have like ace x of clubs here. So I tank for a bit, and I end up ripping it in for about 1,200. He snaps, which obviously doesn't make me feel so great. I table my hand at aces. The turn's a club, and he immediately shows. I believe he immediately shows, but I don't exactly remember if he immediately showed or if it's on the river. But he ends up having 9-8 of clubs for flopping just a double belly buster, flush draw. Obviously a huge flop for him. I think he's actually a slight favorite when I ran the math on the flop. But once he bets this large, I think I'm just going to be way ahead of his range. As I mentioned, he was kind of loose and doing a couple of goofy things. So I don't think there's much else I can do here. Obviously, it sucks that he calls and gets there because even though it is like a flip, he could miss. And he is putting in 165 pre-flop with, suited connectors. So a lot of times he's just going to get himself in trouble when the flop comes like, jack 8-3 and he flops second pair and a backdoor flush draw or something like that. And he's going to end up calling a bet or two. So anyway, I lose that hand, double him up for around 1,200. And then the final hand occurs. There's a couple of limpers in a straddle pot. He makes it 40. I have pocket nines in position. I end up just calling because I hadn't really seen him opening up in middle position, early position too light. So I felt like he was a bit stronger in this hand. I had flat 2 nines. One of the limpers calls, and we go 3 ways to a flop, which comes king 6-7, and it goes check. He now bets, I think it was like $65 or $70, which is fairly small given the betting actions and betting patterns that I had seen from him previously. He had tended to bet pretty large, so it felt like to me that he either here has top set, or he's got just some airball, or a pair possibly between the 7s and the kings, like 10s, jacks, queens. I end up calling because obviously, he's an action player. I've got position on it. If I turn a set, I could end up making a big hand. If he does have ace king here, similarly, I could just be ahead here. I have position, so I like to take one off. The player after me, I'd already also seen him kind of motioning to muck, so it let me know that he wasn't going to be continuing in the hands. So this is something that I think you should always be paying attention for. There will be some times where people will be angling you and doing something like fake mucking to get you to call, but for the most part, I think people's intentions are pretty clear. And you'll see, like, if someone's folding, it kind of lets you know, okay, I can continue here because I'm going to be the only other player in the hand. So I call, the original limper folds, and we go heads up to a turn, which pairs the 6 and now he checks to me. This kind of gives me the green light, A, that I either have the best hand, or like I had mentioned, that he has a pair between the king and the 7. So I elect to bet now 150, and he calls fairly quickly. So again, this feels like, obviously he could have a hand like king, queen, ace, king, and doesn't like the fact that the second card paired, but still, to me, the quickness of his call led me to believe that he's doing these things where he's like, he doesn't want me betting the river. The river is a 5, so now 9-8 gets there. I do have 2-9, so I blocked the straight draw. I have the blockers to that. I could obviously rep this. He checks, and I just feel like if I check, I'm going to lose here a lot to obviously either some like king 10 type hand, or like I said, what I feel is most likely 10s, jacks, queens. And so I end up betting 310, and he kind of insta-mucks. And so as I kind of, I felt, I think I was right. I think he did have a pair in between. I ended up showing him a 9, kind of like to show that I could have 9-8 or something like that. And he's just like, nice hand. I couldn't call that bet of yours. So I'm probably right in my kind of guess of what he had. I end up losing a little over 500 in the session because of the aces hand. As I mentioned, that hand was pretty large post flop. I lost 1,200, so I think it was around like almost a $3,000 pot. So after losing that hand, I was up a fair amount before that, but after losing that hand, got me stuck a little bit, won a little bit back, as I had mentioned with the pocket 9s hand, but ended up losing 500. And that brings us back to present day, which is actually a month later. I haven't played too much since then, so my plan going forward now is basically, it's a bit of a stretch, I think. But what I want to be doing is making a kind of daily vlog, something quick from the sessions that I'm playing. My goal is to be playing every day now. I drop Charlie off in the morning, and I want to kind of head in and get in a session every day. So what I'm going to try to do, and this is a tall feat for someone that hasn't vlogged in months, I want to be putting out a daily video, kind of short, sweet, maybe just detailing 1 to 3 hands, the most interesting and fun hands for my session, and kind of get that out quickly. You know, the B-roll is going to be minimal, but I think that's okay because I just want to get back into it. So let me know what you guys think of this. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys look forward to more to come. All right, thanks, guys. Peace.
I just want you.